Hi, and thanks for watching this. Our purpose at Insureblocks is to support insurance industry digitalization. And we know that in order to do that, a lot of people are going to have to learn new skills. And the beauty of a community like ours is that no one needs to know everything. We can learn from each other and level up together. And to start that discussion, we've decided to do a series of business case clinics, of which this is the first. And the idea is to present you with a scenario and then to solicit your views on what's right, what's wrong, what approach would you take? And there's no right or wrong answer in these things. Right, let's get started with the first. I'll just present my screen. So your scenario here for the first Insureblocks business case clinic is that during COVID-19, you and your company realized that the way you keep your contracts and the way you look them up is suboptimal. So you had a problem with the force majeure clauses in your contracts. You couldn't find your contracts and you couldn't look up what types of clauses they contain. And so you and some colleagues get together and decide that this shouldn't happen again. And you package up a project into various steps in order to achieve that. And what I've done is I've created a relatively realistic scenario around this. And the team identifies 5 different steps in this process. The first is that you need to create a data lake of your contracts. You gather them all up together, and from this data lake, you can do text search across the portfolio. The second step is you build a clause extraction machine or some kind of semantic engine to allow you to do intelligent text search within those contracts. The third starts to get really interesting. You start to digitalize some of your processes, namely the review of your contracts, the portfolio assessment, and to semi-automate the review and creation of your contracts according to your playbook, in other words, your guidelines or your rule set. The fourth is that you bring in some advanced tooling. So you can bring in a system to evaluate the coverage within your wordings automatically against a baseline and then advise on costing. You can do continuous reporting out of clause content, of risk changes to the portfolio, etc. And you can embed smart contracts if you would like to and create some genuinely full automations. And the final step is you want to top off this project with a certification to the new legal risk management standard and pat yourselves on the back. So your sponsor is the chief operations officer, and you've got to sell this to her. And she is principally interested in one thing, which is efficiency. And you can argue that that's not the only dimension to these things, but that's all she's interested in. And so you as a team, you plot out these 5 different steps against a graph showing the efficiency gain. So on the x-axis there, you can see the percentage efficiency gain in that part of the value chain, and the value chain on the left-hand side, so on the y-axis, extends over time. So at the beginning, you touch a small part of the value chain, and you create little efficiency gain. But as you develop over the project, you develop tremendous efficiency gains, and the value chain extends. The size of the bubble indicates the cost of the step. So here you've got the 5 steps for me. The first step is you create a data lake of the contracts, and here the cost is reasonable, right? Not huge, but you'll see that it doesn't create much in the way of an efficiency gain, and it really doesn't extend the value chain very far. It stops at reporting. Even the second step doesn't go that far. It's clause extraction, and it doesn't really extend either the efficiency gain or the value chain. The third really does, though. That's the process digitalization. There you're starting to get something really concrete that moves the needle on both axes. And then when you add the last 2, you'll see that, yes, the cost of those is quite high, but again, the gain is very concrete and really does move the needle. So the question to the community is not, is this a correct process? Have we split up the steps correctly? It's how do you present these different steps with their cost to a sponsor, to your chief underwriting officer, to your chief operations officer? Do you present the whole thing as one big package with one big price tag? That's option one. Option two is, do you split each step up and have a toll gate at the end of each step and ask for money each time? Do you split them up in some way? So for instance, do you split that into step one and then this into step two? Or is there a different approach that is better? Okay, your problem obviously is getting over step one, because step one doesn't, on the face of it, bring that much, but is essential to achieving step two. So here's the question of the community. How do you go about this? How do you package it and present it to your sponsor? Is it a single unit, one step at a time? Is it in two steps, step one and then step two? Is it in a different sequence? And finally, does it not actually matter at all? So thanks a lot for your inputs. I'd be fascinated to see what emerges, what views emerge. And don't forget, there's no right or wrong answer to this one. Thank you very much for listening.